Is that a real challenge for women? Because if you post the picture with little skin, you get all sorts of attention.
Yeah.
And if you're having a lousy day or you just had an argument with your boyfriend or whatever, getting attention from random people online feels good.
It's a drug. Yeah, it's a drug, like anything.
Drug.
It's a drug. And you get this reminder that I don't need to tolerate this man. I don't need to tolerate this man. I don't need to tolerate this man. Now, sometimes you're with a bad man, and it's a good thing to remind yourself of that. But what I would say is the reason why I encourage everybody to be fully faithful in relationships, men and women, and I encourage them to be faithful and committed, is because you get to the outcome sooner. And what I mean by this is if I'm dating you and I'm fully committed to you, I'm fully loyal to you, and then I realize you're still disrespectful, you're not being kind to me, you're not giving me attention, I know I did my best. Bye. But if I'm talking to other guys, I'm posting online, I'm like, well, I also did this, and maybe that's why he did that. And guys will be like, well, I always slept with other girls, maybe that's why she slept with her ex. They muddy the water so much that they end up accepting toxicity in the relationship. So I actually recommend giving it your all because you get to the outcome quicker and it reveals itself. The truth reveals itself faster and you don't waste your own time.
Okay.
And time is precious.
Okay. And so you tell girls to avoid posting these things online?
Do it, but just know that the type of man you'll be attracting will be a weaker man. He'll thirst after every girl that posts.
It's tricky because it's all anonymous and their profile pictures probably look great, maybe if you go that far, and it just feels good.
Yeah.
And you don't have to see the bad flaws.
No, you just...
It's like when we see haters online, we don't realize they're 12-year-old kids in their mom's basement. We think they're like Elon and Donald and their opinions matter when they don't. I guess it's the opposite with women because it's coming probably from the same 12-year-old kid in the basement.
Exactly, a complete loser. But the abundance of it means that the abundance of attention is better than the lack of attention from your partner. Right. And attention is to women, it's like a drug for us, and that's not a bad thing. That's how we're designed. We need a bit of attention, but the quality of attention matters more than who is coming, than the amount of it. And I think social media skews that a little bit for women.
How do women react when you call them out in your therapy sessions to be more accountable?
They never call me again. That's a key thing. Yeah, here's my trick. When I have a couple online and I know that, like I can tell that the woman's very much the problem, I'll soften her. I'll pretend I'm on her team, I'll validate her emotions because I just know the moment you tell them the truth, you'll never hear from them again and you won't be able to help the couple. Okay. So the better thing to do is be like, oh, I completely understand why you're so devastated that he, left the dishwasher on when he shouldn't have. Oh, I completely understand it. That justifies why you spoke to your ex. I get what you mean. Yeah, that justifies it. But, and then you have to kind of sow with a lot of sugar because the thing is, the main thing that come to me, women that come to me, the ones that really like accountability, they're my favorite clients. They love me and I love them. But the ones that come to me where there's a clash is she wants to talk only about how bad her partner is, only about how narcissistic he is, only about how wrong he is. She never wants to hear my conversation about, but why do you accept this? Why have you allowed this? What is your reason? Have you tried letting go? Have you tried having more boundaries? They don't want to hear that because they want to hear, you should be more sympathetic, the fact that I was abused by a narcissist. And my question is always, look, when you tolerate abuse, unfortunately, you are contributing to the trauma that your children are going to see. It's not just him. It's not just the abuser that creates this traumatized child. It's mum taking him back again and again. Mum picking him up, taking them to shelters for the night and then coming back to him. There's children out there that beg their mum to leave this abusive man. And she says, oh, we're going back to dad now. So then you are contributing to the trauma just as much as he is. You're blaming it on him because his behavior is more outlandish. But you are both contributing to the trauma. But the child only sees you as a victim. So they get a skewed version of reality. And that's why I do really put a lot of emphasis on the women changing.
Is all couples therapy doomed from the start? It seems almost just massively flawed because each person, first of all, it's usually one pushing it more than the other, probably the women, and they all want their own agenda to be validated.
I do. Here's what I would say. Sometimes they come too late. And what I would say, here's when it's doomed, when the woman is avoiding the therapy. Yeah, and I'll tell you why. Because usually women want the therapy. And usually they're the ones that are pushing for it. Because they need to get on with their life. They either want to have kids or don't want to have kids. They need to get on with it. But when the woman is avoiding therapy, what's happening is she's hiding something. She's definitely hiding something, and it's usually an affair. So when you've tried everything, she wants a divorce out of nowhere, and you suggest therapy, and she's like not really interested in it, and she's disconnected to the therapy, and she kind of is looking elsewhere and be like, oh, doesn't want to be there. I promise you, she's hiding something. You just haven't figured out what it is. And I say to clients, I can turn on the camera, I can tell when she's cheating, because when the women are still invested and the man is somewhat invested, he just doesn't know what she's talking about, the therapy works really well. Yeah, it works really, really well. Or when both people are like, we love each other, I don't know why we keep fighting. It works really well. They just haven't understood each other's language. But when one person, particularly the man, is desperate to hold on to the relationship and she's checked out, or he's going to therapy thinking therapy is going to fix it, he hasn't looked at the most obvious thing, which is usually she's having an affair.
Okay, and thereby checked out.
Thereby checked out. And I always can tell. And I tell them in the therapy, I'm like, I can tell, I'm so sorry, but I know you're having an affair.
You say that?
Always.
On the Zoom call?
Always. And they're like, well, there was this one incident. I'm like, I can tell by your tone. I can tell by your tone. And their defensiveness as well. Sometimes their defensiveness as well. And this is why...
Do they come clean or not?
I hate, or somebody rings me back later and saying, you're all right.
Okay.
Yeah, somebody brings me back later. Somebody always brings me back.
Not her, maybe.
Yeah. And I don't like, look, I would get nothing from accusing people incorrectly.
Yeah.
But the problem is cheating is like going to the doctors and trying to get your blood test results. They can tell the symptoms, you have this disease. That's what doctors do. Cheating is exactly the same thing. Symptoms, this is the only cause is cheating. You can't convince me otherwise. And so it's like an overweight person coming to a PT and saying, no, I eat really healthy. You're like, no, your body wouldn't look like this if you ate healthy. Right. Same thing when they come to me with their issues. I'm like, it doesn't happen without infidelity. This is the issue. So I can tell by the symptoms that there's definitely an affair.
Is there an affair because of certain symptoms? You know, and is it different for a man, different for a woman?
Here's what I'm so fascinated about. When I first came into therapy, I was looking forward to helping the women that might be having an affair because their husbands are so bad to them, they're so abusive, they're so toxic. Only women that I see cheating are ones with nice guys. That's it. They're the only ones. I've never seen a woman cheat on toxic men. They come to me with these toxic men that are really hostile and not nice and a bit of mean to them. I'm like, I'll help you cheat. Please cheat. And I'm like, come to me. I know great men. Please cheat. And she's like, no, I could never do that to him. I'm like, he's so mean to you. But the women that are with men that are submissive, too tolerant, don't have their voice, have lost their identity, who are just super, super complimentary to her all the time, just always trying to get her attention, needy, they are the ones that cheat. Because they need sexual excitement to be aroused by a man that's constantly praising you, constantly giving you compliments, constantly needing your attention, constantly emotionally available, constantly feminine. She's the one that cheats. And that's where I was so shocked. I was like thinking it was going to be the other way around, but I realized, and that's when I started changing and I started saying, if you're getting cheated on, it's your fault because there's something in your masculinity that's broken.
And that's a great way to look at it anyways, because ultimately it is your fault, right? It takes two to tango in a relationship. And pointing the finger at one person or the other, it's never that. And
then it doesn't explain the fact why the men that do get cheated on every relationship they're in. Okay. Yeah, so obviously they are the common denominator. And there's women that do that as well. It's every relationship they're in. And the key ingredient with people who get cheated on in every single relationship that they're in is they have such a naivety about the opposite gender. They think the opposite gender thinks the way they think. So they think, oh, like I'll have women that would be like, oh, we haven't had sex in about 2.5 years, but he never asked for it, so I didn't know. I didn't think it was a problem. I'm like, he's going to do something. Or the man would say, oh, no, she would never cheat on me. She would never. I know she goes out all the time and she comes home late and she is an alcoholic, but she would never cheat. She just doesn't like cheaters. I'm like, she doesn't like you cheating, but her behavior suggests otherwise. So they have this naivety where they trust their partner's words over their partner's actions. Even if other people have warned them, even if there's so much evidence, even if they've seen things, they trust their partner's words over reality. And that's what causes people to get cheated on all the time.
And they assume that they think the same way they think.
They think just because they would never cheat, they think their partner would never cheat.
Right. Okay. And men and women think differently anyways.
Yeah, humans think differently. Yeah, like some people would cheat, like even regardless of who they're with, and other people, they could hate their partner, but they're just not unfaithful by design.
Okay.
Yeah.
About cheating, you said that I think if a man cheats, there's a possibility that a relationship can be saved.
Yes.
But if a woman cheats, there's no possibility it can be saved. Another bold statement by Sadia Khan.
So, but I don't see how it's bold when we've lived in polygamous societies all throughout generations where men have had 5 wives and women have like not had many men. That's very rare that we find that. So the fact that that's a bold statement when it's so culturally true, I just find it bizarre. But here's the key difference. We don't necessarily lose respect for a man doesn't necessarily lose all respect for a woman if she accepts that. They might continue in this, that, and the other, but the key thing is Men don't need women to be strong. They don't need her to be possessive. They don't need her to be protective. They don't need those qualities in a woman because they're supposed to be bringing that to the table. So if she forgives him for cheating, yes, there might still be some disrespect. I'm not saying it's a good thing, but they don't lose what they fundamentally need from a woman. Women fundamentally need men who are more alpha, who are more masculine, who are more protective, who are more possessive, because that protects women. These are all protective traits. So if I don't have a man with those traits, I'm not safe in his company. So if he knows, like, this even goes as far as, like, let's say, for example, I go to a restaurant and somebody's like coming and trying to talk to me and whispering in my ear, I'd expect my husband to say something. I wouldn't expect him to be like, well, you look like you were okay. And I'd expect him to say, excuse me, like, can you just, make some space? That's what we crave in a man. Men don't crave that in a woman. So when you accept a woman cheating, what she learns is you have none of those traits. You don't even mind a man inseminating himself into your woman. If that doesn't make you turn away from this woman, if that doesn't put you off, and in some men it actually makes her want them more, she's going to automatically think you're not a man. She might in the moment be really grateful. She might be like, thank God, blah, blah, this, that, and the other. But two things happen. Firstly, she's only with you because the person she cheated with didn't want something serious. Second thing is, in the long run, she will learn there is 0 deal breakers in this relationship. He will accept anything. He might make my life a bit difficult. He might be different, but really, he's naive and he'll accept any behavior. And I can't respect a man like that. Nor would you want a man like that. No, right. You don't actually want men like that. You don't want weak men like that. You want men that say, actually, no, that's disrespectful. I don't want it. Now, similarly, I would argue men appreciate women who don't accept cheating. I know that they're more likely to do it and more likely to happen, but I still think men prefer women who have the ability to say that's not acceptable. They at least need something. But when they know that it's totally acceptable, they also need some leash on them. Do you agree or not agree?
No, I think what you're saying makes a lot of sense.
Because one time I did say to my husband, I was like, do you want a second wife? I actually don't mind it in the long run. I actually might be like, in 10 years' time, leave me alone, go find another one. And he's like, how could you say that to me? Do you not love me? Oh, how could you even joke like that? And I was thinking, is that a dream come true? Especially for you, I thought it would be a dream come true. But I think it's like more of a case of people who respect themselves like partners who respect themselves. And so they don't want a doormat. They want somebody who respects themselves because they respect themselves.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I guess that's a good thing.
It's always
But who knows, maybe you'll convince him over time.
Yeah, when I'm tired and my back is broken, you're going somewhere else. I don't care.
I always hear that women say, I don't want you to fix my problems, I just want you to listen to me. Mm-hmm. And because I'm a man, I probably have a whole history of when a woman tells me a problem, I try to fix a problem. Yeah. Just like when my boys tell me a problem, I try to fix a problem and then we help fix it together and that's why we're boys. And there's all these other things that obviously women think different than men that I'm saying sometimes I don't understand the language of women. Yeah. So first of all, is that true? Should I listen and not try to fix her problems? Or is that what a beta male does? And how does this all incorporate in the relationship dynamic? Or does it have nothing to do with the relationship?
It's really, really difficult. Here's what I like. Some men fall into a trap of just being the listener, where she can be on the phone for them for hours and they've got other things to do, whatever it is, but they don't want to put the phone down. You don't want to be that available to a woman to the point where you just become like her sister, her mom, everything rolled into one. It's like, I listen, I'm here, I get it. And you listen for a little bit, but at some stage, both of you need to become problem solvers. Here's where women enter toxic relationships and stay in really toxic relationships. All men and women, but mainly women. Here's the problem that they have, is where they have a bunch of problems and they require a man to fix it. I would recommend for everybody, men and women, if you want your self-esteem to increase, is you become a problem solver. Yeah, you don't just look, I just need you to listen, or I just need you to fix it for me, or can you just fix it? Generally, as a human being, the more problem-solving skills we can create in ourselves, the better our life gets. It's just a better skill to have. So as a man, if you do try and fix the problem and, you get on with it, and the woman is too sensitive about it, stay a problem solver. And the reason being is because those women who just want an emotional tampon all day, every day, are draining in the long run anyway. You want a woman who's like, yeah, actually, let's fix this rather than just talk about it for 10 years. Let's actually fix this. So when you become a problem solver, you're less attractive to women who like to mope. You don't want those kind of women anyway, so stay problem solving.
Drives me crazy.
Yeah, like how much can you talk about the same problem, especially when it comes to things that they can fix? Let's say, for example, it's weight, or let's say, for example, it's like, jobs or anything like that. You can fix these problems. I have I can only hear the same problem once or twice. Then both of us got to fix this. We've got to find a way to fix this.
Are you a man in a woman's body?
I think so. Maybe I was born a man.
What a beautiful creation. Amazing. Why?
But can I tell you why that might be?
Why?
Because I'm the third girl in my family, and I remember when I was born, my mom and dad really wanted a boy, so they were like, crying that they had a girl. So I remember just always being like, okay, maybe it's good to be a boy. Maybe it's always good. So I always had more of a masculine kind of mentality to think that maybe boys are better. I'm Pakistani, so I used to have this. So I think I naturally just realized that maybe not naturally, my parents probably induced that idea that there is a difference between men and women and you should try and have more masculine traits. And I think I just adopted some masculine energy without realizing.
And it's a huge part of your brand.
So it's a huge part of my personality.
It is.
Yeah, I love having masculine energy. I know I don't look it, but I actually, and a lot of times people describe me as feminine. I actually personally think I've got a really masculine mindset.
Yeah, you do. You have masculine mindset, but still a lot of feminine traits.
It's not weird.
And that's what broke you out 3-4 years ago when people started noticing these things, because you're coming at it with this male perspective or masculine energy, but as a woman, and no one had ever heard it before. Yeah. Like you said, most of the women were, I'm on team woman, we're victims, he's the bad guy, and they just,
sisterhood.
It just continued this behavior, and it doesn't help, it doesn't solve any problems.
It doesn't solve anything.
And then you were like, oh wow, she's the real talk lady. So yeah, thank God for your parents, and thank God you weren't a boy either. Yeah, alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah, there we go.
Getting there.
Well done.
All right, we are having less children in this world, and certain countries like South Korea are going to be extinct soon. It's so low. And even Western Europe, I think Italy and all these countries, they're actually not having enough children to increase the population. I think you have to have 1.2 per person in order to, keep the population steady. Yeah. I think South Korea, it's like 0.6 or something. Wow. So in certain families, there will be no great-grandparents, ever. Why is this happening?
I'm part of the victim to that problem as well. And I think here's the problem is that because we know so much now, and because we are so keen on being good parents, we almost don't have that laissez-faire attitude that we used to have that's almost good. Like my parents would have 5 kids and they wouldn't worry about how expensive it's going to be or how much time you have to give each person or how much quality time and or the different love languages they need. They're just like, they'll be friends with each other. They'll raise each other. That's what siblings are for. In this day and age, they take one child and they overanalyze the costs, how it's going to live, blah, 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 because we're trying our best to be the best parent possible. But the best way to parent is actually giving them siblings, actually giving them a bunch of siblings, giving them and kids are very low maintenance, really. They're designed to be, you can buy your kids a bunch of toys. They'll still want to end up playing with the pots and pans in the cupboards. So I think it's the overemphasis on how quality of life that we need to give them. Also the refusal to give up our own freedoms as well. Nobody really wants to give up their own freedom, which is understandable. I can see why people do that because it is difficult having children. I think that's a combination. And the other thing is it's difficult to find somebody that you can genuinely co-parent with if worst case scenario happens. Because before people would kind of stay together forever, it wouldn't be this case that I have to do this custody battle, I'd have to risk this, and then they're going to bring all these other parents into the home and maybe they get abused. You don't have to worry about that. Now you genuinely do have to realize that there's a big chance that whoever you have children with is not the person you're going to be with for the rest of your life. And so there's all of these factors that's making it quite difficult to start having children the way that we used to have them.
People have a lot of options. Like back in the day, 50, 100 years ago, like your husband or wife was like your reality, right? It was like everything. And these days now, especially in Dubai, as you were saying earlier, you have so many options. And that can, it actually can be a proxy for a romantic relationship. I mean, brotherhood for men and other events and an online community. Like when I started London Real, I felt all this love that I hadn't felt before, and it really filled a gap in my kids as well. Yeah. Whereas I think before that, Sadia, I would always look for a woman to bring me that, and it wasn't a total replacement. But enough of these things stack up, and the relationship isn't as important as it used to be.
Do you think that sometimes helps a relationship where you don't become so emotionally dependent on that person, or do you think it kind of makes the person disposable? It
can help the relationship, but it also might mean that you could go long periods without one. Yeah. Whereas in the past, when I grew up in high school and stuff, or in college, not having a girlfriend meant your life wasn't as good. Yeah. Whereas when you have all these other things going on and you're stimulated and you feel different types of love, it's less important. And if that's the case, you're probably not going to have kids. And
do you want more kids, or?
I thanks to the mother of my children, we have kids. She had to push me, put a gun to my head.
Really?
Because I was the guy that was, I remember my dad laughed at me one time because he said, "Why don't you get a dog?" And I said, "A dog's a big commitment." So like, if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't have my two beautiful boys. And I would have missed one of the greatest rides on this planet as a human. I don't believe you can really be a human without kids. I know that's a terrible thing to say, but
I agree.
I'm with Sadia. So
I'm 100% agree. I just think that you don't get a full human experience until you create humans. You know, there's no way you could. And even as a woman, I just think like until you have pregnancies, and myself included, because I haven't had that, I haven't really experienced womanhood yet, because you realize that your body has a function and your life has a function. It's like boobs are there for a reason. They're not just there for a reason. It's all for a reason.
Including the instincts.
It's incredible.
Right.
It's so incredible. And I remember speaking to my doctor, and he's like, you know, when you get pregnant, it reduces the risk of cancer. It does this for you, it does that for you. You'll get hormones that recognize your baby's cry amongst a billion different babies. It's like we really are designed just to have kids. We got distracted, but we are designed for that.
Advice right now to the woman that's watching us who is frustrated with her dating experiences. Let's say she's in Dubai. And she's like, I don't know what to do. Like, what are some basics that you want to tell her? We'll get to the man afterwards. Of just basics of things to walk her through that she can't see that she's doing that are either sabotaging her relationships or causing her to meet the wrong people or whatever. What are some of the basics? I'm sure these apply to everybody.
Yeah, look, here's the thing. First and foremost, men, the emphasis on attraction is really important. Yeah, you can be a really wonderful woman with lots of wife skills, and I agree, you're a great wife, you're going to be a great wife. But if you don't present that in the right packaging, unfortunately, they are so easily distracted by beauty, you won't believe it.
It's so true.
I'm so sad. I'm so sorry to break it to you, but if they have a choice between a bitch who's their dream-looking woman and a wonderful, wonderful woman who is not something they're attracted to at all, they're going to go here. It's as simple as that.
Because we're narcissistic bastards.
You're a piece of shit.
No, that's just the way we're wired.
That's the way we're wired. Yeah,
okay.
Look,
and that's kept us alive so far in this million
male's
years.
nature. Now, men in the comments, especially the ones that don't have any women at all, they're like, no, I want a good virgin, I would choose a good woman over a bad woman every day of the week. Yeah, my ex was a narcissist. I mean, if you were choosing good women, you wouldn't be single and writing comments in my videos.
Right, and all the women you follow on Instagram are taking their clothes off. They're not the good women.
Yes, so you trolls, shut the fuck up wherever you are. So we're not talking to you. So the key thing is, unfortunately, until you get that in order, your chances are automatically lowered. Now, before, it wouldn't be that much of a problem because men would be realistic. If they are this overweight man, they would accept an overweight woman. If they are this man that's not particularly attractive, they would accept that a woman's not particularly attractive. Now, instead of accepting their standards, they turn to pornography. So if they have a choice between a woman who's on their same level of attractiveness, maybe not that attractive, or watching porn all night, they'd choose porn. So this is how important, unfortunately, it is for them, particularly now. So things that you can control, like your weight, or things that you can control, like in terms of your presentation, your smell, your aura, your confidence, your makeup, these things, especially now, it's easy to get these things. Try and emphasize on your appearance. Make sure you make an effort everywhere you go.
It's a big part of a woman's job to be beautiful.
I would say so. Do you know why? Not to be beautiful, but to be her full potential.
Right.
That's all. Yeah.
To present the best version of yourself.
Best version of herself. Yeah. You're going to hear guys online saying, we like no makeup, we like a simple down-to-earth girl, blah, blah, blah. That's the losers. The men that actually like femininity want a woman who looks like she put herself together to some extent. Yeah. To some extent, they want that. So
it also shows confidence and self-worth.
It does something to her own. Because what happens is when you
it also shows the man that he's important enough.
Yeah. Look, even, when you put a suit on, or when you're a woman that puts a pair of heels on, it's not like, oh, you're going to get married that day. It just means that when somebody's serving you coffee, they give you a bit more respect. When somebody's, a cashier will be a bit nicer to you, smile to you. People have people gravitate to those that take care of themselves. It's that simple, yeah? So firstly, you want to take care of your appearance. The second thing you want to do is don't want to be naive about the nature of men. Yeah, don't be naive about them. Even if they're not pushing for it, they're not asking for it, their intimacy is important to them. It's so, so, so important. If you have all the ingredients, but there's no intimacy in that regard, they will go elsewhere. I know a lot of people say, no, we're da-da-da. The masculine men will end up going elsewhere. They'll end up choosing that. So they need intimacy. They really do need intimacy. That's not the only thing they need, but they need that. Attraction and intimacy is more important than every other trait. They're saying it's not, but trust me, that is the most important. It's a bit like how some women will say, no, I don't need a guy to be successful, or I don't need him to be tall or anything like that. But sometimes that's not enough, but it's definitely the gateway. Yeah, that's what I would say.
In intimacy, you just mean regular intimacy, sexual contact.
Yeah,
this is important to them.
Important to them.
And don't try to justify it, or it's just the truth.
Don't try and argue with it.
Right.
Yeah. Do you think I like this fact about men? Oh my God! If it was up to most women, would say they're happy to never do that for the rest of their lives. Yeah, they're happy to give it a rest for the rest of their life, right? But obviously, I can't speak for all women. But generally speaking, they would love the idea that it's not as important as it is. Unfortunately, after speaking to so many men over the years, the number one complaint is the lack of intimacy. It is a drug to them, the way that affection and love is to us. I find it really, really strange when men don't want kids. I can understand women. I still don't agree with women that not wanting to have kids, because I do think, again, you don't get your full experience. But I do think, I can get why their body changes, their life is on hold, they've got it a lot harder. But men that avoid kids, what's the mentality behind it?
Commitment for me. It was just I'm going to have a 20-year commitment to do something. And maybe because when I commit to something, I follow through. Yeah. And so I've always been really independent my whole life. And so I could go anywhere I wanted to go and do whatever I wanted to do. And for me, I looked at it as just like a suffocating, lot of responsibility, because I wasn't going to do it half-assed, and I wasn't going to not be their father.
Yeah, but that responsibility and commitment, do you feel like that enhances masculinity from it? Yeah, it's essential, isn't it?
It's very important. Yeah. And I feel so much more love with these boys, and I become a better man because of them. And it's been amazing. But I could see why people opt out, and then they overthink it, like you said. That they get the calculator out, and it costs $500,000 to have a kid, and how am I going to do it? And it was interesting. I was listening to Tucker Carlson talk recently, and people get alarmed. Oh, parents shouldn't have kids when they're 20-something years old. And Tucker said something interesting. He said, no, that's exactly when you should have a kid. Yeah. Because you're so messed up, you're so self-centered, you're usually probably abusing yourself with, substances and all these other ways. And a kid will make you shape up more than anything else. Yeah. And there's maybe a reason that was designed, because it makes you into this mature adult. It's much faster than people are maturing these days.
Well, they do find that, men that have problems with the law or problems with education, children ship them into shape. Isn't that crazy?
So many times.
It's so amazing for them. So it's incredible. And you how old are your boys again?
7 and 8.
And do you know, does the connection with the mother affect connections with children, or is it independent for men?
What does that mean?
As in, if you had a terrible co-parent, do you think that would affect your relationship with the kids? Would it affect your attachment to them, or not so much? Is it just an independent feeling?
I mean, so if my relationship was bad with mom, would it affect the way I...
if you hated each other, for example.
No, it would just make it harder.
It just makes everything harder.
It would just make it difficult, and it would make the narrative trickier to control, because if I was, being bad-mouthed in the bag time, it would mean I would have to try to put those fires out. And that doesn't happen. And my parents, when they divorced, were very good about that too.
Yeah, it's really important.
And it really helped a lot. So my mom, she 99% of the time didn't say anything bad about my dad. Now when she's older, sometimes she starts telling me stories, and I'm just like, save it, Mom. I don't care. And then when your dad cheated on me, I'm like, yeah, well, you probably had something to do with that. And so I'm just
this is the key, because here's the thing. I know I keep going on back about fathers and stuff, but I'll meet men who will say, I hate my dad, he cheated on my mom, but they have wives that cheat on them. And I said, but you've forgiven your wife 100 times for cheating on you, but you don't forgive your dad. And it's like, then they're like, yeah, I didn't think about it. It's just as you age, you learn that every bad behavior that your mother or father did, you're capable of it too. Yes. Yeah, we're all capable of it. We think, because I think, how can you hit a kid? But really, sometimes I don't know what it's like when they really drain you, and there's so many of them all the time, and it's the quickest way to shut them up. So I don't know what it's like. So I think really, in time, you realize every behavior they did, humans are capable of it ourselves.
So important for people to realize all the things that you judge your parents for, you will actually do all of those things yourself.
Yeah. Try a 40-year marriage where maybe one person doesn't want to touch you ever again, and then you outsource it, and then she makes your life a living hell. It's like you're trapped in a lot of ways. So I think it's good to understand your parents as much as you can. They're not perfect, but without understanding them, we just recreate the relationship in our own relationships.
I made a movie in 2018 about an ayahuasca ceremony that I had. And what came up in the ceremony was what always used to come up with me was my parents divorced when I was 7 years old. And it really shocked me. I think because I was so trusting of the nuclear family, and then it just got separated. And I thought, well, if I can't trust this, I can't trust anybody. And I can't open myself up to anybody because I'm just going to get hurt. So I lived with this for a long time, and it was a narrative always in my head. And I had this ceremony, and I went back to the 7-year-old, and I could see this little kid that built up all these boundaries. And we're trying to make this movie, and my director said, Brian, this isn't a movie yet. It's just some, guy having a midlife crisis. Nobody cares, right? And he's like, you got to go home and talk to your parents. And I was like, do I? He's like, yeah, we got to get on a plane and fly to San Diego and talk to your parents. So we did. And I went and I put my dad on camera and my mom on camera. And I asked him about the divorce, okay?
Yeah.
And it was heavy. I don't think my dad's forgiven me because he's in the movie. And so, unpaid extra, as I call him. And so, but in the process of doing this, I went really deep, and I actually sat down with Dr. Joe Dispenza 2 days before I left. And he said, Brian, he said, maybe you need to tell yourself a new story. He said, maybe you're going to realize that everything you told yourself about what you thought happened, it wasn't what happened. And I sat down with my mom, and she told me how after the divorce, she became this incredible, independent woman. And she started traveling the world, and she started creating her own businesses. And like, in a weird way, that was the best thing that ever happened to her. And then when I talked to my dad, I realized, okay, here are these two 20-something-year-olds trying to deal with 3 kids, each growing apart. They were high school sweethearts, for God's sakes. And you realize it was the best thing for him as well.
Yeah.
And here I am projecting this blame or this scenario around an event that was actually great for everybody because it created a super self-reliant kid. And so I just got over that whole narrative.
And some men, because they went through that, they're like, I'm never going to break my home, so I just want to stay in my home. And they create more trauma by having this toxic relationship in their home. And it's really tough because, look, here's the thing. We can't deny the fact that a nuclear family is always better for kids. It's always, always better. But if you're going to have this attitude that I'm going to do it once and that's it, at least pick correctly. At least be really, really diligent with who you have your children with. Because you can't just have this attitude with any kind of woman, because then you might set your children up to learn dad has no balls, that mum has is getting abused. You set your kids up badly. So if you do have this mentality that I'm only going to do it once and for all, be diligent with who you can spend your life with.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Sadia Khan, and you might know me as a leading dating coach in modern relationships today. I work with men every single day to help give them the blueprint of understanding relationships, women, attraction, and self-esteem. So if you are feeling stuck in your relationships and you want to unlock your full potential, work with me today by clicking on the link, and I look forward to hearing from you.